Hola, mi amigos. Today I wanted to put Gladiator 2 on the grill. And if you don't know what that means I take a piece of media, whether it's a game or a movie or whatever. I kind of just made this up on the fly, but I put it on the grill. And we see how long this bitch takes to overcook, burn, shit like that. Or maybe it's just right. Who knows? You never know. So we're going to put Gladiator 2 on the grill. We're going to talk a little bit about it just for a couple minutes. I'm not going to make this like a big lengthy one or anything. I don't have a whole lot to say about the movie. But I did want to talk about it. I like to get these reviews out, and I just don't really have time to do it at home, so I want to do it while I'm on the run at work and everything like that. So I also have some Pizza Hut, a little personal pan pizza here that I will be eating soon. So really, this is just a cool down period. So let's talk a little bit. I went and saw Gladiator 2 the opening weekend. I wasn't necessarily like excited. Not saying like I wasn't looking forward to seeing it. I was looking forward to seeing it. I really liked the first Gladiator. I even watched the first Gladiator the night before, which might have been a problem in my opinion. When I rewatched the first Gladiator, there's a lot of stuff that I forgot about. Obviously, I remember all the big quotes and everything like that, but I didn't remember everything. And one of the major issues I had with Gladiator 2 was that it was practically the same movie as the first one. It was very formulaic at times, where it kind of just progressed because it had to progress kind of movie. And I don't think the writing really helped it all that much either. It was lackluster writing in my opinion. A lot of like just cheesy lines, a lot of one-liners, just not really on par with what the first movie kind of gave us when it came to the dialogue. But watching the first one really made me realize like, oh man, this second one is like pretty close to the first one. It's pretty much the same type of movie. It flows the same way, just with worse dialogue and just kind of a story that didn't need to happen necessarily. So I feel like if I would have went and saw Gladiator 2 without remembering Gladiator 1, maybe I would have been like, wow, this is pretty fun. This is pretty good. I don't necessarily think it wasn't not fun. I think it was a fun movie because I do think the action was really good. What Ridley Scott was able to do, and I think he's like 84 years old now, so like him directing this movie is astonishing because it was a well put together movie. It looked really nice. The actors seemed to know what they were doing. It's just the dialogue they were given wasn't really anything to work with, but I still respect what Denzel, what Pedro Pascal, Joseph Quinn, what all these guys were able to do. And Paul Mescal as well. I don't really recognize him from anything, but he was like the main gladiator character in this movie. He was okay. He wasn't like, his choreography was really good. Like he did really good action-wise. He beefed up. He looks good in this movie. He's a hunk of a man. But his dialogue kind of sucked. Especially when you're comparing it to Maximus from the first movie. Russell Crowe was poetic in a way. This movie wasn't as poetic in my opinion. It was more of just a straightforward action movie. And they did the action really good. The action was bloody. It was gory. It focused a lot on the choreography. The first movie, it was kind of the opposite. The first movie was more, the dialogue was what you're listening for. And the gladiator stuff and the cool action was cool, but it cut away a lot in the first movie. Wasn't as much blood and gore as in the first movie. The second movie made up for a lot of that, and I respect it for that. So that's why I say the movie was fun. And a lot of people didn't like the bad guys in this one, Joseph Quinn, and there's two Caesars in this one, two bad guys technically. They're brothers. One of them is just a goofy, scream all the time mental case. The other one is more like proper, but he's still crazy too, where he just wants to see blood. I like them. I thought they were fun. I mean, nothing's gonna compete with Commodus from the first one. Joaquin Phoenix was fantastic in the first movie. But enough comparing it to the first movie. When it comes down to it, it wasn't nearly as good as the first movie for a movie that I look for. I look for more dialogue driven with some good action in between. This movie was more just great action with bad dialogue in between, in my opinion. And I think that's the best way to you should subscribe to describe how this movie was to me. It was formulaic. It was your typical, it has to happen because it has to happen type of movie. I think personally, this movie would have been better if, obviously, it had better writing, but I think it would have been a lot better if it was just called like Gladiators, and like it wasn't about Lucius, and it was more about just like a group of gladiators instead of being just about one gladiator again. It just made it feel like it was so copy paste from the first one. But again, I think if you're somebody who hasn't seen the first one, you should watch the second one. I think you'll like it because it's a hard-nosed action movie. It's good. It starts out the same way with a big action sequence, but instead of cutting to really good dialogue, it kind of cuts to more action, or more like just like, you know, quick, get to the action type moments. You know, we had moments in Gladiator 2 where they're fighting a rhino in the Coliseum. They're fighting sharks in the Coliseum. It's fucking cool. It just, the in-between wasn't really that great. And this movie was like 2 hours and like 30 minutes. The first one was actually like 2 hours and 35 minutes or so. So very similar, very similar. I liked it. Didn't love the story. Loved the action more than the first one. Loved the story in the first one more. Didn't love the action in the first one as much. I don't think this movie is going to be a movie that like you walk out of and you're like quoting it. You know what I mean? It's not going to be how Gladiator 1 was with the, are you not entertained? And, you know, the strength and honor and all that stuff. Like, you're not going to be quoting this movie in 20 years, in my opinion. But I do think it's a sequel. You know, it is what it is. It's just there. I wouldn't necessarily say like I was upset with wasting money on this movie. I really wasn't. I was more so upset with it not living up to the first movie's standards. But again, for what Ridley Scott did here at the age of 80 something, 84, fantastic. You know, Ridley still got it. Denzel still got it. He was pretty good in this movie. I mean, his character had moments that were good. I thought the story kind of was formulaic, where it kind of just happened to happen. And I think his character was really like kind of punished in that way, because his character had the most like moments like that. I didn't feel like I wasted my money though. Like, see this movie in theaters, because it is a cool theater experience. Like, there is not enough like Roman Empire type movies with this type of action in it, and I'm glad we got it for that purpose. It's kind of like a I don't know if that's a catch-22 or what that's called, but like, I'm glad it's here, but I hate that it happened. Maybe an oxymoron. You know, it's one of those type of movies though. It had a $230 million budget compared to the $100 million budget, which was big back in 1999, 2000 for the first movie. $230 million, it's made about $350, I believe, so far, grossed, which I don't think that's enough, personally, but Ridley Scott's got a lot of, like, you know, he's got a lot of, like, you know, say in a lot of movies and stuff like that, so I could see him still getting a third movie. Not saying this movie ends in a way where it needs to have a third movie or anything, because I didn't even think the first one didn't end in a way like that. But I'm sure there's going to be more of them, and I would appreciate more Gladiator movies, because really all we have in the 21st century that, you know, that is like action-packed and good would be like 300, Spartacus. You know, these are shows that are kind of unique because of the time period that they're set in and the way that they're made. I think Gladiator 2 fits in with those though, you know, where it's not like, it's not S tier, but it's like B tier. It's like B plus tier. You know, if I had to say like where I'd watch this movie the most, I'd spend $10 and watch this movie in theaters. I wouldn't go out of my way when it comes to streaming to like go and see it again. But if it was on TV, like if it was on like TNT or like FX or something one day, yeah, I'll watch some Gladiator 2. Fuck it. You know, it's got good action scenes. There's some pretty cool scenes. There's some memorable, you know, heads getting chopped off, you know, moments. But for the most part, the movie was very formulaic and it copied the first one a lot. I don't know if history buffs are going to love this movie, but if you love gore and you love Colosseum stuff, you love the Roman Empire stuff, this is a good movie for that. But it's not a good movie in the sense of like, wow, Oscar nominated, worthy. You know what I mean? Maybe Denzel gets like a nod, but nobody else really did anything spectacular in this movie like Russell Crowe did. So, all in all, on the grill, I think this one is a little bit overcooked, little burnt, but everybody likes a nice crispy hot dog sometimes. Good enough, you know, good enough. The next movie I'm going to do is Wicked, which I'll do that when I get home maybe, or maybe tomorrow on lunch break or something. But as of right now, I liked Gladiator 2 for what it was. Don't go into it expecting this fucking like Shakespearean fucking experience. It's not that. It's more of like a 300 where it's like story isn't perfect, but it's fun. It's gory and it's fun. So Ridley still got it. Denzel still got it. Paul Mescal was pretty good. Good enough. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Give it like a B plus. It was a little overcooked, just a little bit.